Nagarika Mitra, America and Israel are at war with Iran, and in a major escalation, the United States and Israel have launched a joint military attack on Iran, and Iran is also vowing retaliation. There's breaking news coming in. We have the first statement by the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We're going to play out that. So, US and Israel continue pounding Iran. Iran too is vowing retaliation, and Netanyahu has confirmed the joint operation after that detailed statement that came in from the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Netanyahu has thanked President Donald Trump, and in his statement, he's praised his historic leadership. Right now, we know that this was an operation that was planned months in advance. And in the latest statement by Benjamin Netanyahu, he has confirmed that this is a joint operation between US and Israel, a joint operation, a combat operation on Iran. He's thanking US President Donald Trump. Let's also play out his reaction.
אחיי ואחיותיי, אזרחי ישראל, לפני שעה קלה יצאו ישראל וארצות הברית למערכה משותפת, מבצע שאגת הארי. מטרת המבצע, לשים קץ לאיום ממשטר האייתולות באיראן. בשעה זו תוקף צה"ל מטרות של משטר הדיכוי, מתקנים של משמרות המהפכה והבסיס, ויחד עם צבא ארצות הברית, אתרי טילים בליסטיים שמאיימים הן על ישראל והן על כוחות ארצות הברית. מבצע זה יימשך ככל הדרוש. במשך 47 שנים קרא משטר הרשע באיראן מוות לישראל, מוות לאמריקה. הוא רמס את אזרחי ארצו. הוא הטיל מורא על עמי האזור. הוא פרס רשת טרור מסועפת בעולם כולו. הוא השקיע משאבים עצומים לפתח פצצות אטום ועשרות אלפי טילים שנועדו, כפי שהוא הגדיר את זה, למחוק את ישראל ממפת העולם. הוא חימש גם את שלוחות הטרור סביבנו, בעזה, בלבנון, בסוריה, בעיראק, בתימן, ביהודה.
So that is Benjamin Netanyahu's first statement, and we're going to tell you what we understood. In his first statement, Netanyahu says, "My brothers and sisters, citizens of Israel, just an hour ago, Israel and the United States embarked on an operation to remove the existential threat posed by the terrorist regime in Iran. I thank our great friend President Donald Trump for his historic leadership. Iran has been defined as an existential threat to the entire region, and that this is an operation that has been embarked upon by both the United States and Israel to remove the existential threat posed by the terrorist regime in Iran." And he's also thanking Donald Trump. Srinjoy Chaudhary is with us on this broadcast. We also have our guest joining us, but before I introduce our guest, let me go across to Srinjoy Chaudhary. Srinjoy, you heard that detailed statement that came in from US President Donald Trump, and now Netanyahu too is thanking Donald Trump, calling Iran an existential threat to the entire regime. But what is the biggest takeaway today is that call that was given by US President Donald Trump to the people of Iran, where he said, this is your opportunity. We are giving you what you always wanted. And once we are done with this operation, seize your destiny, take control. What do you make out of the statement that's coming in today?
This is the second time the American president has said this. This happened during the protests as well. And those protests were huge. And there were severe casualties. Even the official number of casualties is also high. Now, do the people of Iran have the ability to effect a regime change? That's the first question. Now, there is certainly a huge number of people in Iran who are against the regime. But you would imagine that there is also a large number of people who are for the regime. Now, they may not be so visible. They may not be in the urban areas. But if this is so, even assuming that a lot of people are against the regime, do they have the ability to effect regime change without internal decay within the regime? Like Venezuela happened, but this is not Venezuela. Iran is not Venezuela. Is there an American mole in the Iranian regime? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know as yet. This is still too early. The war only started a couple of hours ago. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, while he wants regime change, he's made it very clear what he's after. He would have hit the radars already. The Iranian missile batteries, the Iranian missile factories, manufacturing places. These would be the first targets. This is the most important thing. Now we'll have to see what he does, because surely there will not be boots on the ground, at least at this point. I can't imagine America putting boots on the ground. At this point, there's not been any talk about it, and there's no sign of it. Right. Yes, there is the Abraham Lincoln, the carrier battle group. Yes, the Gerald Ford carrier battle group, which is closing in. Yes, 4 additional guided missile destroyers were sent, and 2 other warships. Yes, all of that is there. But what does that mean? It means that these are warships which can fire cruise missiles, it can hit targets, and that is what the first objective is.
Right.
Hit all those targets that you have identified, whether they're missile factories, whether it's the radars, whether it's the batteries, all of that. And then see what the Iranian people are going to do.
All right.
They have already been up in arms,
right,
a large number, and that has been put down. Let's not forget.
Yes, and does this joint combat operation only bolster the people of Iran, especially those who are on the streets and who have been protesting against the regime? Joining us on this broadcast, Pathikrit Pen, also geopolitical analyst, Burzin Waghmare, he's from the Center of Iranian Studies in the University of London, and also Adam Scott. Adam, thank you for joining us once again. He is the CEO of Israel Innovation Fund, and he's joining us today from Tel Aviv. But I want to also introduce our other guests who are joining us. But first up, let me go across to Burzin Waghmare. I beg your pardon. Burzin, you are somebody who studied the Iranian society. Do you think the people of Iran will respond to the call that has been given by the President of the United States, that this is an opportunity for them to seize their destiny?
It is a moral call, no doubt about it. But at the same time, the regime hasn't cracked so far, as we know, even at the junior and at the middle leveling ranks. It has remained intact because obviously, what we see with the most recent concluded talks in Geneva is that this is a regime which has come to the conclusion that any compromise with Mr. Trump, or even coming halfway house, would concede everything, and anything would unravel. Its core ideology would unravel, and it would be thoroughly discredited. Not that it needs any more discrediting as we speak. Unconfirmed reports now tell us that in the last hour or so, that the Interior Ministry has been relocated from Fatemi Square in Tehran, and also that the head of the judiciary, the dreaded figure, Gholam Hossein Ejei, has been allegedly killed. So that would be something to enthuse the population at large, because he has been responsible since the December 2025 rioting for the killings of so many protesters, which has now up to 20,000, including pulling out wounded protesters from their hospital beds and taking them for execution or imprisonment. So this individual, the head of the judiciary, has now been allegedly killed, as has been the defense minister. That too has been announced. Consequently, also symbolic strikes have taken place at the Supreme Leader's office complex residence in North Tehran, known as the Beit Rahabari. Of course, Khamenei is not there. He's been underground for ever so long. So I don't see anything further in terms of that occurring. But also the defense ministry has been hit, and the Parchin missile ballistic complex southeast of Tehran in the suburbs where, of course, active work has been going on, including testing of mounting nuclear warheads on conventional ballistic missiles. And Parchin is important to mention because that's where Director General Rafael Grossi last week wanted details from Foreign Minister Arabchi in Geneva before talks set in as to what further developments have taken place, because now we do know a new further 45-meter cylinder has been installed in the complex, and we would like details on that. And of course, Iran has been not forthcoming on that, as well as so much else. Okay. So the question is, this needs to be taken up by the Iranian people as a call when President Trump said help is on its way. But that's not enough. We will see something more happening, including, of course, this very morning, as you know, the Iranian national news agency, IRNA, Tasnim news agency close to the regime, and others have been hacked. And also they are posting anti-government propaganda messages. But I suppose that will be showed over in a few hours, but they have been hacked as we speak. And once again, all this exposes Iran's vulnerability as a paper tiger. For all its talk about missiles and this, that, and the other, it has been abysmally hit ever since the 12-day war in not being able to restoring its military and security capabilities.
All right. You're sharing very important information with us, and you're also talking about how this strike on Iran, this joint operation by the United States of America and Israel, is exposing the vulnerabilities of Iran. We also have Jeffrey Gunter, the former U.S. ambassador, who's also with us. Mr. Gunter, I want to understand from you. The U.S. president has made his objectives very clear. He's spoken about three things. He said that the terrorist regime of Iran cannot be nuclearly armed. He also said that they will take down the missiles, they will highlight the navy in Iran, and also gave a call to the people of Iran to seize their destiny, and warned the Iranian Revolutionary Guard that lay down your arms or death is going to be certain. How do you look at this message that's going from the President of the United States, and what next for the entire region?
It's crystal clear what President Trump is saying. He's saying that this will be the end of the Iranian regime. There's no doubt about it. As far as this being an operation taking out initially radar sites and things like that, I will gently push back. He will take out the leadership of Iran. This is about a regime change. This is about taking down a terrorist organization that has killed Americans for literally decades. Don't forget, 46 Americans were killed on October 7th. President Trump has had enough of these guys. If you look at our military assets that we have in the area, they are extensive, absolutely extensive. There's air superiority that we've had since the prior engagement. And if you don't think that there are some boots on the ground, you surely don't understand the power of Mossad, the power of the Israelis, and Americans' ingenuity of what's going on there. Whether they're going to be visible or not, I promise you, there's a lot going on well beyond what we're seeing. Iran is definitely going to be unable to maintain their regime. Now, your guest made a very good point that in the past we've seen various groups come and try to overthrow the regime, and that has had catastrophic results for them. But my guess is this time around, when the Iran Revolutionary Guards do either one of two things, lay down their arms or face annihilation, then we will actually get more people protesting. I do believe that the majority of the Iranian people do not want to have the mullahs controlling their destiny. As we all know, the mullahs want everyone else and all their proxies to die for the 77 virgins, whereas they always want to live long lives. And the mullahs, like I've always said, like mullah, and AKA money. This is not an ideological war for them. They just want their survival, and they use their ideology as a means of subjugating the Iranian people, and President Trump will liberate the Iranian people. This will be a different scenario than we've seen in other operations like Iraq, where basically the liberation of Iraq, you still had three groups going at each other quite heavily. This is different. Iran is a more unified country. You don't have as many groups. They're very sophisticated. One of those brilliant people in the world are the Iranian people. And my prediction is this will be a success, and this will further promote peace in the area. And don't forget, they're not only a threat to Israel, they're not only a threat to America. The Iranians have been a threat to the Saudis. And I promise you, the Saudis, though they had some restrictions on their airspace, we don't know whether that was actually for show or whether it was a true issue. Everyone will be happy to see the greatest state sponsor of terrorism out of action. This will mean the end of Hezbollah. It'll mean further end of Hamas. The Houthis will be gone, and all these terrorist organizations will lose their funding. And I think this is going to be a successful operation. And I agree with Bibi Netanyahu. May God bless President Trump for his tremendous leadership. And I think the world will be thankful for President Trump's great leadership and the planning of this war.
All right. Former Ambassador, I want you to stay with us, and you've made some very important points. Let me go across to Pathikrit. Pathikrit, you've heard, the President of the United States and his message, many are hailing as one that's unprecedented, that's extraordinary, even revolutionary in its tone. But Iran is also talking about retaliation. We are getting reports of how there are strikes, and the IDF too has confirmed that there are strikes in cities in Israel currently. Hezbollah and the proxies of Iran are also activated. They too are launching a counter. How are you assessing these developments?
Well, it was inevitable that once Hamas and Hezbollah has been taken care of, Israel would have gone for the war with Iran. Last year, it went to a certain stage, and then the Americans bombed the nuclear facilities. But it appears that whatever was bombed that time, it did not completely neutralize the Iranian nuclear program. See, there are a couple of things. I mean, what is the end objective? Is the end objective to have a regime change, or to militarily decapitate the country's, supreme commander, or, destroy the nuclear facilities, or all of them together? We must understand a couple of issues. I think it all depends upon how much the stomach the Americans have to continue with the war, because it will not be that you bomb for a couple of days and the war will be over. Can it be, stretched for 15, 20, 30 days? That is the important thing. It is also important to understand that, Israel has tremendous capability for precision strikes. Israel does have, I'm sure, men on ground. But Iran has strategic depth. It's a huge country. It is not a small country like Lebanon. It is even twice the size of Iraq. So strategic depth is, when you are geographically bigger, to control the country becomes much more difficult. It is also true that there are countries like Russia and China, because of their otherwise antagonism and issues with United States, have been supplying weapon systems to Iran, and this is a given. Even though Iran does not have a navy, it doesn't have an air force, but the kind of ballistic missile capability it has created, I mean, a bit of that was visible last year when there were certain major attacks which happened on Israel, and invariably their Iron Dome system did work well and, intercepted most, but some of those were very, very lethal. So all I'm trying to say is this. Number one, if you are genuinely going for a regime change, we have witnessed whenever you initiate a war, it some or the other way galvanizes that target country. It need not necessarily go for complete implosion. It doesn't happen generally. So even though a lot of people want the regime change to happen, whether the regime will hold on to it or not, that we have to see. But it is a given, because of the American or the European support for Ukraine in the war against Russia. It is a given that the Russians are looking at it as an opportunity, and Iran is an ally of Russia for all practical purposes. It is a given that the Russians have given them weapons, missile systems, intelligence, surveillance capabilities to at least counter. The objective of Iran here would not be to win the war. They cannot. They do not have the capacity. What they will try to do is this: if it stretches beyond 20, 25, 30 days, then it would not be easy for the Americans to sustain. There are pressures back home. And invariably, if you look at what had happened in Iraq, even after Saddam Hussein was gone, it did not create a viable democracy. It has not. It has created complete turmoil, mayhem, and ISIS was born out of it. So even though the regime might be absolutely, abominable for many people, whether the removal of the regime itself will create a better alternate, that we have to see, or else there is a strong possibility the void that is created, that might create a Shiite version of an ISIS, the same ISIS which was created after dismantling of Iraq and what happened next onward. So I think we are heading towards a long-drawn conflict. The conflict might at times have ceasefires, but the template of the conflict is such that it will continue for quite some time to come. In the immediate short run, you might see many Sunni Arab countries remaining silent. Many of them, I agree, are against the Shiite regime over there. However, if the war reaches a critical stage where the Iranians are losing, then there will be pressure in many of these Arab Sunni countries from their own populace not to be neutral and take a stand in favor of Iran. That is the dynamics of Middle East. And so I think Israel does have the capability to sustain, and they have been involved in this kind of conflict for a long period of time. But there are challenges of ballistic missile, hypersonic missiles, to what extent they can be thwarted in a long run, that we have to wait and watch.
You are talking about how this could be a long-drawn conflict, and eventually what's going to be the objective. How will all of this end? But I want all of you to stay with us. There's more information coming in.